Yo! Welcome back to a brand new Craftopia guide. In today's guide, we will be going through the best magic abilities in the whole game. Now, as always, if you enjoy this video, please do drop a like and subscribe. Comment down below with any help that you may need in the game, or what's your favorite magic ability. But let's do this. Welcome to the first video where we go through the best classes and abilities to use. In a recent upload, I mentioned how we are going on to the more advanced guides now. We're going to be talking about abilities and classes, the best builds to use, and even those advanced automations. Well, I figured I would kick all of this off with the best magic abilities. And that's simply because the next guide will be the best magic class you can make. So today, we're going to go through the best abilities. We're going to start off with the attacking abilities. We're then going to talk about the passives and the buffs, and we'll even throw in some honorable mentions as well. Or as I said, comment down below what your favorite magic abilities are. So let's start off with those attacking abilities, and we are going to start off with my favorite, and that is Lightning Ball. Lightning Ball summons a lightning spirit which continuously deals damage to enemies around. I personally have this skill absolutely maxed out because it's just brilliant. The damage it outputs is insane. This is without any buffs. Now, I do have the best magic class you can get, which the guide will be coming up for this class very soon, but this is without any buffs, purely my enchants. If I strip down completely naked and I still use the lightning ball, you will see the damage isn't quite as good, but this is with absolutely nothing equipped. But the amount of times it's being hit is the key thing, and it's hitting all enemies as well. So this means while this attack is going off, you can continuously hit damage. It's just going to rapidly attack everything that's within that dome. So it's perfect for mobs, but it also hits high damage for those bosses as well. So if I simply just equip my weapon, just that alone will bring that damage right back up. As you can see, look how much damage that's ticking per hit. And there's quite a few ticks in here. It goes on for quite some time. Now, the skill is maxed out, and I absolutely recommend to max this skill out. In my opinion, this is the best magic ability in the game, and I absolutely love it. Moving on now to actually my second favorite magic spell in the game, and that is Lightning Bolt. This ability creates an area on the floor that will all be hit by lightning. It's very cheap on mana, and it hits incredibly well. And the great thing is you can choose how far away you cast this. It's just wherever your crosshair is. So I could either stand right here and it will hit this exact spot, or I could stand back here and cast it upon them. So I would simply aim in and cast a spell, and that whole area will be hit by lightning. So this is especially good for those bosses. When you want to pinpoint a lot of damage into one area, it's a great way to do that. You hit all of those spots onto a certain boss, and that boss is going to take some serious damage. And not to mention the previous ability, you could have your lightning ball over the top while you're hitting them with lightning as well. This is a serious damage output, and this is without any buffs. Again, I absolutely max this ability out, and it is by far one of my favorites. The quick cooldown of this combined with lightning ball just means you can rotate those two abilities, hitting out some serious damage, which is great against giant worm. The lightning bolt will actually hit all of the weak spots down the giant worm, and it's very simple to place it down in one specific spot. That is some serious damage. And up next, we have Frost Mine. Frost Mine is a magic ability that will summon ice blades from the ground that pierce through the enemy, and this is extremely powerful. And the great thing is about Frost Mine, the higher level you have it, the further the frost spikes will actually go. So mine is completely maxed out, and I'm able to send one all the way down the middle and hit some serious damage on all of these. And look at the distance I was able to do that from. If I was only level 1, it may just be the start of it here. But as I have it at max level, I can just send it straight down, and that is hitting all 3 of those enemies very hard. Now, there is one downside to this ability, and that is that it can actually lift bosses off the ground. I found this incredibly annoying, especially when you're fighting things like the messenger. The messenger will teleport, so it's in front of you all of the time, and if you hit it with a frost mine, it lifts the messenger up. The messenger just kind of disappears in midair and appears right next to you. It's not the end of the world, and I still use this ability all of the time, but it can be a little bit frustrating with lifting things in the air. I know a a lot of people don't use it for that reason. But the damage it outputs makes it totally worth it, and it doesn't do it with every boss. But Frostmine is definitely one of my favorite abilities, and I like to have this one maxed out as well. Next up, we have Miasma. This is an ability that spreads poison to surrounding enemies, and the great thing is the higher your magic attack, the stronger the poison. Now, Miasma is not one that I personally use a lot, but it is incredibly good. So you would run up to an enemy, you would cast it, and it would hit all surrounding enemies with a lot of poison damage, especially if you've got a high magic attack. Again, this is a great one to have ticking alongside other attacks. It does have fairly good area radius, but the thing that makes it especially good is the cooldown. Just check out that cooldown. I'll cast it, 2 seconds later, I can cast it again. So if we put that to the test, we hit them once, we hit them twice, and look at that damage start to stack up. So that does mean if we really wanted to, we could actually spam this ability and stack that poison damage. It doesn't hit every time, which can make it a little bit annoying, but if you move, it tends to. But you can stack this up. I've managed to get it up to around 10,000 before it's reset. But if you can keep it going, you could stack this up really high, but you wouldn't really. You just hit them once or twice with it, and then you would get to hitting them with other abilities, such as having a lightning ball over the top, a lightning strike. But there you go, we hit a 10,000 tick damage with poison there. So it means that you can just be kind of fighting around, get up close, hit them with that poison damage, get back out of there, let that continuously tick away while you're hitting them with other attacks. Again, if I use any attacking ability, it has to be maxed out. So this one, again, I do use maxed out if I do run it. But in most cases, once I put a lightning ball and a lightning strike, maybe another ability as well, most bosses are dead. So I wouldn't go to a Miasma, but it's there if I ever want to use it, and it is certainly one that I would consider picking up if I was going for more mob kills. But I understand why it's a very popular skill. It is incredibly powerful. Moving on now to one of the most ridiculous skills in the entire game, and that is Summon Meteor. One of my favorite skills. It is absolutely insane. The only problem is you can't use it in dungeons. But that's not the end of the world, especially with most of the best enchants are actually found out on the field. And of course, with Fafnir, Giant Worm, things like that being field bosses, dungeon bosses, you can use other stuff. But if you want to just wreck something, Summon Meteor is certainly the skill you should use. Now, this one's a little bit crazy, but we're going to come on in, we're going to call in the Meteor, and as you will see, look at this thing. It's just ridiculous. It absolutely destroys everything around it. It does have a long cooldown, but that amount of damage, not a lot is going to survive, especially if you're using this on mobs. And it also farmed a bunch of resources for us as well. So it's just an insane ability. So that cooldown's finally over again. So let's go ahead and cast it. Let's get a better look at this. Boom, boom, boom. Look at all those explosions. That is just ridiculous damage. And just keep in mind that I have no buffs activated right now. And for the final attacking ability, we have Freezing Ray. Freezing Ray shoots an ice cold laser that gradually applies chill and frost effects to the enemies, but you do need water to cast it. Now, this one here is a little bit different. I personally can't see this skill continuing like this. I see a nerf incoming, but I could be completely wrong, but I'll show you exactly why. Right now, I have 400 buckets of water in my inventory, which is very easy to obtain. And I have a lot of mana, and I do actually have a whole bunch of mana potions if I did need to top back up. So I'm going to go ahead and cast this ability, and as you can see, it's just casting off this incredibly powerful freezing ray. But I could just move this around, freeze this enemy in place, move over to this one, keep this enemy in place, and as you can see, my mana's going down and my buckets of water are actually being used. But it's so minuscule, I don't even care. And look at the damage it's outputting. And then I would just click and that would stop that attack. So sure, it has absolutely rinsed my mana, but that did only use 4 buckets of water. But it is incredibly good and it will freeze the enemy in place. You can't walk around while using it, but look at that damage tick. You do that on one enemy and can just keep this focused. The enemy just isn't going to be able to move and will just get absolutely cooked or frozen. Okay, so now we are going to move on to the buffs. Buffs are incredibly important. In fact, they are just as important as your attacking skills. You want to find the right balance between 2 or 3 attacking skills and a few buffs. So let's run through my favorite buffs and the ones that actually help you out the most. So I have reset my skill tree and I've only maxed out heal, lightning bolt and lightning ball. But I won't be using any of these. I'm going to use my normal staff cast. Now sure, my weapon is incredibly powerful with some great enchants, but a standard attack with no buffs, I'm currently hitting 3,802. That's a standard attack. So first off, let's talk about Mana Siphon. Mana Siphon simply uses more mana when casting skills, but in exchange for a lot of damage increase. In fact, 200% more damage, which means if I was to activate Mana Siphon and now send a cast, I already hit 4,299. Now again, this may not seem like a crazy amount, but that is just one buff on a normal cast. As you can see, it's got a long cooldown, that's because it's a buff, but you can see the duration just above where my staff is equipped, and within that amount of time, it will cost more mana, but I'll be hitting more damage. And again, I can stack these buffs with other buffs that we're going to mention now. Next, we have Life Siphon. Very similar to Mana Siphon, but instead of your mana, of course, it will take some of your life, but in exchange for increasing your magic attack. In fact, this one can actually increase your magic attack by an extra 50%. And remember, we can use this as well as Mana Siphon. So just a reminder, I hit roughly 3,800, but once I apply this Life Siphon, I now hit 4,500. And the great thing is Life Siphon does actually stay on, which is great. So again, I can stack this with other abilities. Mana Siphon took our damage to over 4,000 and so did Life Siphon. So we combine both of those and we will see that kind of output in a moment. Next up, we have a bit of a different buff, and that is fasting. Now fasting is actually in your trick category, not in magic. Fasting allows you to increase your magic attack, magic critical chance, and your magic critical damage. And that's all until you either eat or until the sun sets. So if I activate this now, as you will see, it will stay on. It stays on for a ridiculous amount of time until the sun either sets or until I eat. But just having that on alone will already put my damage to ridiculous numbers. So you put this on top of those other ones as well, and you can see the damage is just crazy, okay? And it's a great ability. I have this one maxed out and I highly recommend it. Up next, one of my favorite buffs in the entire game because it's just ridiculously good, and that is Backwater Formation. Now this is actually a tier 3 combat skill, so for a pure magic class it is a little bit annoying to unlock, but totally worth it. This can actually boost your magic attack for up to 200%. So again, we were hitting 3,800. I'll activate Backwater Formation, and just with that alone I'm now up to over 6,000. It's very good and it stays on for a very long amount of time. And remember, this is just with my pure casting ability. This is not with a magic attacking ability of any kind. Backwater Formation is absolutely one of my favorite buffs in the entire game, and I highly recommend having this one completely maxed out. And finally, we have some honorable mentions. Now, just because these are honorable mentions doesn't mean I do not include these in every single one of my builds. In fact, these are actually some of my favorite abilities. I just wouldn't class them as some of the best abilities. Maybe this first one is one of the best in my opinion, but the other two is probably up for debate. But starting off with Wisdom. Wisdom is a passive skill, so you simply just need to unlock it, and it will lower your mana consumption down to 70%, which means every time you cast an ability, it will use less mana. So this is very good for those pure magic builds. Next, we have Rune Stream, and Rune Stream is also a passive skill that you only need to unlock. And Rune Stream makes it so each time you hit the enemy, it will deal more damage up until you get hit. And it can actually increase your damage for up to 138%, or as low as 118%. So this is a very good ability if you don't get hit. And finally, a skill that every class should have, and that is Heal. Heal is a tier 1 magic ability, which is great if you're not a magic class. It means you can unlock this skill without having to waste skill points in other magic skills you're not going to use. But this one can actually heal you for up to 70% of your life. And on top of that, it has a very quick cooldown and it's low mana. Having this ability will mean that you basically don't need to worry about food. I purely use food for the buffs. I use heal if I actually need to heal. Okay, so we have gone through all of my favorite abilities. Now let's put them to the test when we start to combine them together. Now I'm not going to use any food buffs here. I'm purely going to use the magic buffs and the magic abilities along with my gear. So let's run through a very quick test of lightning ball and lightning strike. Without any buffs at all, if I put down a lightning ball here, the lightning ball is going to strike for around 5,500. And now I'm going to use the lightning strike, and we hit for around 50,000. So now let's inflict some damage by combining all of these abilities together with these buffs. So I'm going to start with my right click or your left trigger, which will instantly buff your magic abilities. I'm then going to pop Mana Siphon, Life Siphon, and Backwater Formation. I'm then going to come on over, put a lightning ball down and a lightning strike. Look. It's just insane. Put a Frostmine through the middle, and if you really want to, you could send a meteor down on that as well. Boom, 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 boom. Just absolutely fried them. Dead. Dummy dead. And the crazy thing is, these dummies have around 7 million health. And there we go, that is the best magic attacks and buffs in the game. Now, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do drop a like and subscribe. Comment down below with any help that you may need in the game. Or again, what's your favorite magic ability? The next guide to drop will be the full magic build, and I cannot wait to share that with you guys. Remember to join our Discord, the links will be down in the description below. But most importantly, enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace!